Okay. The issues of race in America have always been exemplified in film. From the 1915 film Birth of a Nation that glorified the Ku Klux Klan to the modern white savior film that devalues the importance of black characters, issues of race are often mirrored in the films of their era. Hollywood has often had a way of portraying race in a way that is favorable to the majority of their audience, white people. However, in recent years, there has been an effort made to tell stories of black excellence and black achievement, but almost always due to the help of a white savior. This is a topic I'll be diving more in depth to later, the negative effects of the making of white savior magical Negro films and its legacy of creating a misunderstanding of race. These films are a fairly new concept. Only over the last 30 years have stories of black experience and black excellence made the silver screen, as American society as a whole has come to understand the inequalities of race a little bit better. That being said, Hollywood has made a habit of obscuring the storylines in an effort to appease a wider white audience and including a white savior role that helps the black main role achieve their goal. The reality is that most movies about black excellence are based off a true story. The issue with this comes in is that they include a white savior character that was added with creative license and typically not part of the actual story. As T.M. Morris said in a journal piece titled Unlearning Hollywood's Civil Rights Movement, a scholar's critique, written in the Journal of African American Studies, open quote, unfortunately, Hollywood often obscures, massages, or airbrushes the truth in order to make these stories palatable to white audiences. And we, as moviegoers, consume these films with little, if any, intervention about their alternate facts. The stories presented on screen are often so moving that one might not think to question their authenticity. Yet minor changes have significantly altered the veracity of movement dramas, end quote. So these minor changes in the grand scheme of things can seem like very little, but there's a subconscious effect on how we view people from the past and the people that look like them today. And that effect can be very substantial. So race has always been at the heart of many of America's sins, and it has played a massive role in the history and politics of this nation. So it should be no surprise that it's had a major impact on the way that these stories have been and still are told in film.
For as long as I can remember, when I think of people making films, I think of rich Hollywood producers and actors, which is the case for most, but surprisingly, some of the most famous actors in the world have come out and spoken up about racism. A perfect example is Gabrielle Union. She was forced off the show of America's Got Talent because she stood up to the racist acts and jokes that went on. Nobody else said anything, everyone just let it pass. Everyone pushed it onto the table beside her, and for that, she lost her job. Naomi Campbell is a famous actress who came out and said that she wouldn't get some parts sets because she was African American. She told the press, I did not let it rattle me. I know what it was like to be black. You just have to put in the extra effort. She also does modeling and in that line gets treated the same way and has spoken out on that as well. Actors all throughout the industry have the same stories. It is just that everyone overlooks it because they want to see the movie or think that nothing goes wrong for the actors/actresses because they are making a lot of money just off of that film. The article also talks about how many people who work in the film ignore it because they want to make that money, make the film, and just let it slide under the table.
In relation to our topic, racism in film, Precious has changed the film industry and how it pertains to race because of the amount of detail showing the problems that Black women are faced within their lives. The film challenged stereotypes and played into the white savior complex that lives within Black people in times of trouble. The film opened up avenues to explore obesity and teen pregnancies, all different things that often Black women do not have control over, given their environment and the grip of intersectionality within the United States. An article going after something else by McNeil, Lester, Fulton, and Miles. Sapphire does a account of her novel Push, and the creator of the movie Precious goes into the ins and outs of the film. She discussed her thoughts while making the movie and addressed some of the comments of critics. Sapphire also addressed the film's impact on the world and her intended impacts as well. Through the interview, Sapphire explained her actress choices, director's role, and the relation to the book Push. When talking about the purpose of the role Mary, played by Monique, she says, rarely have I seen such a courageous exploration of the human psyche as the portrayal of Mary that Monique gave in Precious. She showed us the societal and individual effects of a narcissistic personality disorder on one level. On another level, she showed us a woman trapped within a patriarchal construct who feels she is faced with the choice, her man or her child, Sapphire, 2014.
Music holds a strong potential for influence in movies when it is properly used. Films have always had a connection to race throughout history. In the early days of film, white men were the primary creators of films, and early films misrepresented African Americans in a stereotypical way, but there were also Black filmmakers who had the chance to correctly portray African Americans. This was done by a Black writer, Langston Hughes, who took interest in films around that period in time, which was also after he had been influenced by jazz music. Hughes accounted for how Black audiences would react to his films and the political power that they could hold. Many of his films were played in Harlem theaters where Black audiences appreciate the familiar jazz and blues music in the movies. A scholar who favored Hughes exclaimed, "Hughes offers us musical montage in which hearing is made equivalent to seeing." Clearly, Hughes understood how powerful music can be when it is correctly used in films. Combining the art forms of jazz and film allows for visual and oral appeals to the audience. Knowing his audience helped him create a stronger connection between the movie and audience. Including the jazz music in the film created a sense of unity among the crowd of African Americans who were used to being poorly portrayed in films during that time. This also relates to how film scores chose to put Beethoven's Fidelio in the movie The Shawshank Redemption because the movie and the audience played a role in the song selection. The song was chosen because it's a beautiful classical song that showed the prisoners in the movie that there are still amazing aspects of the world outside of the prison walls. All of this shows how music, films, and race have shared a connection for many years, and they continue to share that connection to display powerful messages to today's society.